All right, good morning, my Sits and Hills family. So it's a little bit later. I usually was trying to get these out on Friday, but I was busy. Okay, we are studying chapters 8 through 12 in Alma. And what I love about this first part of Alma is that it really is all of Alma's missionary moments. And I think so often we hear of Alma being like the warring chapters and so much death and destruction, but really this first part of Alma is beautiful with how much Alma went and he served the people and he loved them. In chapter 8, verse 1, more towards the bottom, it says, he returned to his own house at Zarahemla to rest himself. And I love that this was put in. I don't think he went home to watch Netflix, although that would be a pretty great image, But I think we kind of discount how much we need to rest. If we are going to be a missionary, if we are going to serve, if we are going to be anxiously engaged with the Lord, that we will need some time to rest. And I'm sure he spent time with his family. He probably was in prayer, reading scriptures, making sure his land was in order, but taking time to kind of recoup and get ready to go back out. And the wisdom of this, before he even knew how hard these next cities were going to be. He's not going to be liked. The people don't want to hear him. He's going to be driven out. And how much this time that he took to rest probably gave him the strength to carry on throughout his missions in harder parts of the land where the people did not want him to be there. He goes to Amulek and he began to teach in Amulek, and then he went up north to Ammonihah. Now, the people of Ammonihah did not like him. They did not welcome him well. And I often wonder how, having success through other lands, what Alma felt like when he didn't in in Ammonihah, that the people didn't want to hear him. They didn't want to have his message. They didn't want to change what they were doing. And maybe how that was maybe like an ego blow a little bit to him, to be like, I have this great message. I want everybody to hear what I have to say. And yet the people of Ammonihah are like, yeah, no, we don't want this. And he even says, now Satan had great hold upon their hearts. And I don't know. I try to see the good in people. So I know that we're going to get into this, into other chapters throughout the Book of Mormon where the people are actually evil. But I think sometimes Satan has great hold on our hearts in such not a small way, but in such a, what's the word? Like it's not out. And we tell our kids, I'm like, I don't think that Satan is going to be like, hey, steal a shirt from Target, and you're going to do that. However, how easy is it to copy and paste parts for a paper? I'm like, stealing is stealing. One is very like, grab a shirt, put it under yours, walk out the store. And one is kind of done with a couple clicks of a mouse. And I wonder if that's how Alma is seeing him. It's not this, we're killing everybody who comes into the city. We are, like stealing from other people, but maybe the people were not being totally honest in their dealings with their fellow men. Maybe they were cheating them out a little bit. Maybe there were some of the secret combinations, not super visible, but definitely there. And I think when Satan has great hold of your heart, I think that is how he gets it. I don't think it's ever like 0 to 100. I think it's like these little incremental steps that move you forward, I guess, or backwards, going kind of the wrong way. And even with that, Alma says, it says, verse 10, nevertheless, Alma labored much in spirit, wrestling with God in mighty prayer. And so even though he knew that this is where the people were at, he wrestled in prayer. And I think probably for the people, like What do you want me to do? What angle can I take? How can I get them to understand? I don't think it was like, let me just preach to them. And we hear so much about, well, not so much. I think we hear maybe a couple times about people, the prophets wrestling. And I love that word, like wrestle in prayer. Because this wasn't like a, thank you for the day, help us to be better, help me teach them. But I think of like almost like a wrestling match, like this back and forth, like Alma is probably like, I don't think these people are going to listen, so I'm going to go. And the Lord's probably like, no, no, no. They need to be taught. And this is how you need to teach them. And Alma's like, well, I tried that. Give me some, like this back and forth. And I think so often, sometimes we view prayer so very one-sided that we pray to God. And then we kind of wait and see what happens. And, wait for the Spirit, wait for an answer, whatever. But I love that this wrestle was very much a back and forth. And we see that like with Enos as well. I think we should be wrestling with the Lord more. I think that that's what the Lord wants us to do. He wants us to be anxiously engaged in our prayers and with our relationship with Him. And so I think that was one thing that I learned, that I maybe need to be wrestling a little bit more with the Lord to find out not only what He wants, but how He wants me to do it and how I feel most comfortable with it. And not that it needs to be comfortable, but to tell the Lord what I am and start there. And if He's like, well, do it this way instead, then that gives me an opportunity to wrestle, because I do think that that is what the Lord wants. All right, so as we continue through chapter 8, Alma is really starting to feel sad, and he says, weighed down with sorrow, wading through tribulation. He is grieving for these people. He knows what they can become. He knows the potential that they have. He knows that they can be a prosperous city if they would follow the Lord. And I love that an angel of the Lord appeared to him saying, blessed art thou, Alma. And I think I've never had an angel appear to me, but I have been granted peace when I am weighed down with sorrow, maybe for something that one of my kids has chosen to do, that it is their choice. And I think so often that we feel, I think sometimes we have like this plan laid out for our kids, whether in the gospel or without, and we see their potential and we see what they can become. And when they choose something different that starts taking them away from that, we're like, no, come back, because what I see for you is so much better. And I think that's where Alma is at. He sees these people for what they can become and their potential. And I think sometimes we have to let go, that the people have their own. And then, so he gets ready to leave, and an angel says, you have to go back. I have not been, like, Alma is always like with the angels. And I often wonder, like, would I be so quick to return? And I think, like, we see this also with Samuel the Lamanite. Like, he's like, I've taught the people. They don't want to listen. I'm out of here. And the Lord is like, no, you got to go back. And this is what Alma is getting at too. And so I wonder, would I be so quick to return? And that is, I think that's the lesson here. Like, if you are asked to go back, would you be quick to return? Sometimes it's like, I don't know, like with my kids even, it's like, you know what? You do you. And there are times when that is what it is. And then there are other times when I have absolutely felt like, you need to go back and you need to fix this. And that's on me. And sometimes I'm like, I don't want to fight with my kid anymore. Ugh, would I be quick to return? And I think sometimes it's easier to just leave and be like, hey, Lord, here you go, than it is to kind of venture back into what could be tribulation again. In this case, Alma meets Amulek, who becomes a loyal friend to him and goes on with his missions and is there, and probably somebody that Alma needed. He had been doing these missions alone, or probably, getting with the people that are there or whatever, but not having like a companion. And that's what Amulek becomes. Now in chapter 10, now you want to read the chapter heading as well, because Mormon is now saying these are the words of Amulek. And you'll see it kind of switches to first person, so make sure you read the chapter headings for that. But in verse 6, in chapter 10, this is Amulek speaking, and he says, "Nevertheless, I did harden my heart, for I was called many times, and I would not hear. Therefore I knew concerning these things, yet I would not know. Therefore I knew concerning these things, yet I would not know. Therefore I went on rebelling against God in the wickedness of my heart." And I think it's funny that he uses the word harden my heart. And because that seems really harsh and really heavy. I think Amulek was a great person. I think he was just very passive. He heard the promptings of the Spirit. He knew what that sounded like, and yet he actively chose not to follow. And I often wonder how often we dismiss the things that we're told because I'm too busy. I don't want to do that. And I don't get the sense that Amulek was idle in his life. I think he was just busy, and with that he says, "I would not hear. I knew these things and I chose not to do them." How often do we maybe do that, even in such a way? So I don't necessarily think Amulek was like an evil person. I just think he was passive with the Lord. I think that becomes really easy for us to do, to just kind of show up, but maybe not be anxiously engaged. And then this last part, I think the timing, oh, the Lord and his timing, right? Okay, this is in verse 22 of chapter 10. "Yea, and I say unto you, that if it were not for the prayers of the righteous who are now in the land, that you would even now be visited with utter destruction, yet it would not be by floods, as it were the people in the days of Noah, but it would be by famine, by pestilence, and by the sword." And I think of like the time that we're living in now, and it kind of feels like the wrath of God is upon us. Am I the only one that feels that? Ooh. Now, I believe in the power of prayer. However, with that said, I don't think prayer alone is enough, and I never have. It drives me crazy when people are like, "I'll pray for you." Like, that's not enough. If we are not actively and anxiously engaged in a good cause, our prayers do nothing. It does nothing to be like, "Hey, Heavenly Father, bless the homeless." If we are not going to go out and maybe feed them or donate or serve or love, we were told to mourn with those that mourn, to comfort those that stand in need of comfort. That's an action. That's doing something. And you don't comfort while you are kneeling by the side of your bed. You comfort when you are with that person. We are told to feed the hungry, to clothe the naked. And those don't happen when we say prayers. Those happen when we are out and about, when we know who is hungry and we are choosing to feed them. I believe that prayer alone will never be enough. I believe that prayer with action will bring peace and comfort, and is what is the ministering that the Lord wants us to do. And I think right here, if it were not for the prayers of the righteous, and I think, thank you. I think the prayers of the righteous, and I think of the righteous as those that are also actively doing. They are there living their religion and not just praying their religion. And I think as we live in this time right now, I don't think we can just be passive. I think like this whole thing, we are seeing like that Satan has a hold of the hearts, but I think it's also in such a very passive way. We see that Amulek was passive with the Lord. He heard the Spirit and chose not to follow. And then we have over here the prayers of the righteous, and you see that shift of that is what is saving the people. And I think it is those prayers of the righteous that are also out serving among the people, that are doing their best to make things better for this land. I think as we live in this time right now, I don't think that prayer will ever be enough, but I think prayer coupled with action we will see miracles. We will see the work of God continue to flood the earth because we are his hands here. These are amazing missionary chapters and if you read them, they're filled with so much, like, between the lines of like how we can serve and minister to people, the examples that we should be following. I think they're also filled with those things that are going to bring balm to our soul, that people can choose what they want to choose, and ultimately there really isn't anything that we can do about it, except for love them. I look forward to reading more about this mission and the way that I can serve you better and my family better and this world better, because I think that is where the Lord needs us. Have a great day.